Hey everyone, guess what? We do not have ugly swag. We have spaced out radio gear that you're going to want to wear. Why? Because no one wants to wear ugly clothing. So head on over to spacedoutradio.com and go shopping today. You'll be glad you did. And it's a great way to support our show. Once you get your gear, send us a picture of you rocking out in your SOR swag. spacedoutradio.com, shop there today, and make yourself look good.
Are y'all ready to head off the trails? I'm the cryptologist, Jessica Jones, and I'm ready to take you on a mysterious journey right now. We welcome you to Off the Trails right here on the Spaced Out Radio's YouTube channel. If you guys haven't hit subscribe yet, please do. We would love to have you. And shout out to Bumblefoot for that awesome intro music. I always appreciate it. All right, you guys, please go follow us on social media at Spaced Out Radio on Facebook, TikTok, and Twitter. Okay, or X, excuse me, on Spaced Out Radio. And then on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. And if you guys would like to support us here at Spaced Out Radio, you saw the commercial just then, go get you some swag over on our website, spacedoutradio.com. Hit that shop link and it'll take you right there. Also, we have the Space Travelers Club over on Patreon, so y'all be sure to go hit that up and become a member today. Okay, now you guys can find me at thecryptidhuntress.com. I have weekly shows on my channel, The Cryptid Huntress, on YouTube. I also post my shows on Rumble, and you guys can find me on podcasting platforms. Okay, I try to keep those up to date so you can listen to me in the car, on your headphones, wherever. So I have shows every Wednesday, Thursday, and Saturday on that channel. So y'all come see me over there. I have a Patreon as well. It's the Cryptid Huntress and a shop that's called War Woman Goods over on Etsy. So thank you guys for all your support. It means the world to me, and it means the world to Space Out Radio over here. All right, we have a fantastic show tonight. I have my very good friend, Dr. Dennis Carroll here. We're going to be talking about the South American werewolf and curses, inherited curses, bloodline curses. You guys, it's going to be fantastic. I can't wait. It's one of Dr. Dennis Carroll's best subjects, I swear. He's so knowledgeable in all things occult and voodoo and curses and all that stuff. Okay, so don't forget that right after this show, After Hours has a really good program set up for you guys. So go over there as soon as we cut the show tonight and see Rob G. Okay, let's get to our guest. Dennis W. Carroll has over 40 years of experience in the field of the paranormal. He has studied, researched, and investigated many aspects pertaining to the paranormal and the supernatural, with many personal paranormal experiences. He is a researcher and investigator of the occult and the supernatural. You can find him on his YouTube channel. That's Hunting the Shadows. He has several shows there. A couple of shows he does there throughout the week, and he has another show with Carroll from it's Piercing the Veil, not Piercing the Veil, from Midwest Night Watchers. That's his show. And that airs on Monday night. So you guys please help me welcome to the show my good friend, Dr. Dennis Carroll. Hey, Dennis.
Good evening. It's always a pleasure.
Well, thank you for being here tonight.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a beautiful, beautiful night out there. I was just looking a little while ago. It's a beautiful moon. It's almost a full moon, not quite. It's what's left of the strawberry moon. Makes you want to go out and howl, but I have to stop that. The neighbors were complaining. So.
I know, as long as you're howling with your clothes on, okay, and not transforming, right?
There you go.
Oh gosh, yeah. Well,
we've got an interesting subject tonight. The South American werewolf and how it becomes that is the curse factor that we're going to be talking about too. Are you very familiar with the South American werewolf?
I am not. I am just learning about the South American werewolf. And I did some research on this today. It's called the El Lobezon. Okay, the El Lobezon. And it's very popular in Argentina and in Brazil. I know Brazil, and is it Uruguay or Paraguay? I can't remember, but pretty well known. People fear this werewolf, these werewolves, because there's multiple ones, right, Dennis?
Well, it's described in some ways, Jessica, and here's what interested me in it, because I have studied about werewolves all over the world, or the shapeshifters, we call them, and there are different ones everywhere. And then the South American is kind of strange because it's not just a wolf, although the name Lobezon means wolf. Lobezon actually means wolf, or wolf-like. It doesn't sometimes take the shape or form of a wolf. Sometimes it can be sort of like a fox. But most of the time it's described as just something with a lot of fangs and furs and claws. So it's kind of, indecipherable. It's very much like that right there, which doesn't look a lot like a wolf, in that respect. But it is, I consider it to be something very cryptid-like. And by cryptid, I mean it is sort of a hidden nature, something completely different than what we, envision on these things. Well, the Lobezon is interesting in the fact is it takes on different forms. And here's the thing, here's the connection with it. It is said that only people who bear the curse of the Lobezon actually turn into that. And you have to be the seventh son of a seventh son. Now, here's the interesting thing about that. That's known all over the world, just about the very interesting attributes of a seventh son of a seventh son. These are people born supposedly very much like, I don't know if you're familiar with the term of people who are call born. Have you ever heard that expression, call born?
Yes, I'm familiar with that because Mahalia Lancaster, who is a very famous a fortune teller here in Georgia. Mahalia Lancaster lived down in Heard County, where I do Bigfoot field research sometimes down in that area. And she was born with a caul, and that means that the embryonic pouch, like she was still in the placenta when she was born.
I was too, by the way. I was called born. And you're supposed to be able to see things other people can't see, or do some extraordinary things. I haven't done that, but anyway, that's what you're supposed to be, and that's very much like the seventh son of a seventh son. These are extraordinary people, supposedly, who can see and do things that not normal people can do. Very much like call-born, supposedly, call-born people are. And it's sort of like, here's the interesting part of it, Jess. It's sort of like a curse, in a way, especially with the Lobezon. And that's what we're going to be talking about tonight. But what we call bloodline curses and dark contract curses. There's different ways you can go about getting and instigating these curses. And I've had a lot of people recently ask me about, the people are very interested in curses, how to break them, especially how to avoid getting cursed or whatever the situation is. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But anyway, It's an interesting thing, the connection with this. This is one cryptid that's supposed to be cursed. And that was why it was so interesting to me. You don't find many cryptids with curse. They come with a curse in that way,
Mm.
except for the werewolf, of course.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. Now, when you're saying that it's usually the seventh born of the seventh born son, it kind of reminds me a little bit of the Jersey Devil. If I'm not mistaken, it seems like the mother of the Jersey Devil had, I think she was on her 13th child. And she said if she had her, it was, I guess there's just a number. It's not the seventh of the seventh, okay, but it was a cursed child because she said if I have one more child, it's cursed. Okay, she didn't want any more children. I don't think she had enough.
Well, supposedly she kind of uttered the curse on that. She said, "If I have another child, I'm giving it to the devil, or I'm turning it over to the devil. It belongs to the devil." So she kind of put a curse on it. That's what the folklore, man. And that's the interesting thing about curses, Jessica. They can be demonic, or what we would call nefarious type stuff, evil, or they can be brought about by human agencies as well. Humans can do this in that respect. There have been many instances, supposedly in history, where people have uttered curses, and unfortunately, they came back on them because of what they did. To curse something actually involves a higher spiritual level of consciousness, and what you're doing is putting forth the power of that consciousness to get or manifest something. Whether you do it for good or bad, most of the time it's usually for bad. That's the way curses go. But you can also hope in a positive manner for something. And I talked about this on my show a few weeks back. There is power in words. There's a lot of power in a word. We don't realize how much the spoken word can have power to it, for good or bad. And we should be very careful what we say sometimes, because it can sort of start a reaction or an action on something that we may not want.
That's right, Dennis. I have a little comment to make here because even in the clothing that we wear, if you wear a shirt that says lazy bum, okay, let's just say on it, you're kind of
Yeah.
cursing yourself to be a lazy bum. Okay, you're calling yourself out to be that. So we want to
Yeah.
wear higher vibrational phrases. If you're going to wear clothing that has any words on it, make sure that it's something positive. Okay, make sure it's something positive
Yeah.
because you're kind
Oh
of
yeah.
labeling yourself first of all by whatever you're
Mhm.
wearing. So just wear, high vibing clothing if you can.
Oh yeah, not true. And but now this is a different thing with the lobazone. It is a bloodline curse. In other words, it's passed down from generation to generation to generation. Now, a lot of these bloodline curses are instituted because somebody back down the line signed a dark contract or sold their soul to the devil or whoever you want to believe it is. They have sold out to the darkness, to the dark side. And when they do that, it's not just on them. They say, so many generations of my line will uphold this promise. It's a blood promise, actually. I don't know if you're familiar with the movies John Wick.
Yes.
But in John Wick, you remember the coin that the blood promise coin the blood vial that and
Mhm.
your blood went down in the coin, and then the other guy, his blood went down in there. You sealed that deal with blood, okay? And that's what these bloodline curses are. They sign a contract, a dark contract in blood, or they seal the deal with blood, however that may be. And there are different ways to go about that. Um, but the main focus is once it begins, it carries on generation, year after year after year, generation after generation. And usually, here's the interesting thing about bloodline curses: they don't deteriorate as time goes on. They still maintain that same force from generation to generation. And that's what makes them so deadly in so many ways. Whether it's turning you into a werewolf, whether it's just cursing your life in itself, or having bad luck follow you around, whatever the situation is, it never goes away unless you break it. It has to be broken. but it will never go away usually on its own. That's the bad thing about bloodline curses. They don't go away.
Oh, well, okay, Dennis, you said that they can be broken, though. How exactly could a bloodline curse be broken?
Well, it's just like any other contract, okay? Like if you and I signed a contract to do something, and I have a legal repose to break it sometimes, unless I say I'm gonna do it. So there's a lot of legalese in this, okay? But if we have a contract, usually one side can usually get out of contract, but there is a price for doing that, okay? Just like say if you and I were in business and we had a contract and I want to get out of it, I have to pay a price to do that. Okay. And that's the same thing with bloodline curses. It is a contract that's been signed and usually the payment is your soul.
Ooh, oh no. Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
terrible contract. I'd stay away from that one. But you and I
And,
have actually had this discussion before about the I guess the famous pop singers and people who are in Hollywood and making these vows, I guess. And I mean, I don't want to say Illuminati, that kind of stuff. But basically signing your name in blood and
mhm.
making a deal with the devil, technically, right? Basically.
Well, here's the bad part about that,
Yeah.
Jessica. When you do make this bloodline vow, when you make this dark contract, it's on your blood, Jessica, and that means everybody else that shares your blood on down the line.
Okay. That's horrible.
It carries over to them. That's the bad thing about it. And so it's the blood thing. Okay, I call it the red stuff. I don't want to say too much about blood. We're liable to get shadow banned on that. But
Okay.
um, it's the red stuff. That's what the main focus is here, and it carries through generation to generation. It is something that you really never want to do it. The best thing to do is never to make a contract with that. That's the main thing. But you can be broken, but it can be broken most of the time with a price. And here's another thing: if you instigate a curse, like if you were to put a curse on somebody, some of that will always come back to you. You will pay a price, a dark price, for even starting that curse. That's just the way these things work. It's sort of a two-way road. It's a knife that cuts both ways.
Wow. It's really sad to think about how, like, my son could be affected by some kind of contract that our ancestors made back, a century ago. That doesn't seem fair, right? It
Yeah,
just doesn't seem fair.
and his children too. Think about that. Not just
Yeah.
him, but then his children and their children, and so on and so on. That's bad to think about.
Yeah.
That you leave that kind of a legacy behind for the people that come after you. That's bad.
Well, here's my thing, and this is what I kind of worry about sometimes is we have to be careful who we marry and have children with. I'm just saying, because your bloodline could be fine, everything is great, but the person who you have a child with, their bloodline might be completely cursed, and that's going to
Mhm.
affect your child, right, Dennis?
Yeah, people don't realize, Jessica, when they make these agreements. They really don't realize it's like I say, it's like a rock in a pond. It makes a lot of ripples, and it's going to affect a lot of people, not
Mhm.
just you. It affects everyone around you and your family, your bloodline. That's bad when you think about it. That's not a good thing at all. And but they don't realize what a terrible price they're issuing forth with.
Wow. Well, let's connect this to these werewolves, okay? Because
Mhm.
we have debates, we have conversations. I had Vic Cundiff on my show this past week, and we were talking about werewolves versus dogmen, and people say that werewolves are humans who turn into a wolf-like creature, and some people say that they do that because they do sign a contract, with let's say the Brotherhood of Satan or some kind of organization. Okay, but sometimes it can be passed down generationally, right, Dennis?
When you go into dark witchcraft, and I said this before, I could tell you exactly, Jessica, how to become a werewolf. If you want to
Oh,
become a werewolf, you could become one. There are ways to do it. I don't want you to know that, though. I don't want you to try that because it exacts a terrible price. You do not want to pay the price for that. Trust me, you
no.
don't. And a lot of people don't realize that, though, that they're all about power. Let me say something to tell you something about power, fame, and power, and all that stuff. Is the most addicting thing on this planet. Forget cocaine, forget meth, forget all that. Nothing addicts like power and fame and all that stuff that goes with it. But they don't realize when they pursue that what terrible price they will have to pay for it. But in order for you to become a werewolf, there are certain things you must do. And first of all, the number one thing you do is make that dark contract, sign your soul for that power that you want. But to instigate this, you have to climb levels on the ladder. Okay, there's different levels to you to obtain, and when you get to around the seventh or eighth level, almost the ninth level, you will then have the power to begin transmutation of the body. We call that shapeshifting. You're supposed to be able to do that as a satanic, demonic power that you are given. But there are terrible things you must do for each rung of that ladder to get to that power. And you don't want to go there. Trust me, you don't. It involves murder, it involves torture, it involves some terrible, I won't get into it, but it is a terrible thing you have to do to get there. But when you reach that ninth level, I say it's about the ninth level, I think. When you reach that ninth level, you can turn into either a wolf, you can turn into a panther, you can turn into a fox, you can turn into a crow or a raven, a black cat, whatever you want, you can do in that respect. So the more demonic power you acquire, the more powerful you become because you're hooking into a higher amount of power each time. But you have to do terrible things to get there.
Ooh, that's like becoming a skinwalker too. Now, I think that I would rather put my power in the divine. Okay, like I'm not. I'm like on the opposite of this scales, I guess. Like I have no desire to become a werewolf. I like studying them because we have to know what to watch out for, right, Dennis?
Well, that's the way it goes with the skinwalker too. I know how you could do. I know how what certain rituals you do and the things you have to do that to become a skinwalker. I have never ever wanted to try any of this stuff, of course, because I know what you have to do that. But these people, you got to remember that these people most of the time are have just I call them lost souls. They have nothing left to lose in life, and they don't care what they do no matter how many wreck their life and the lives around them, or how many people they're connected to. That's the way it goes with these generational curses. They just don't care. They're doing this to their family. These
Yeah.
people have nothing left to lose. They're the most dangerous people that walk among us. These lost souls, because they have nothing left to use. They don't care. They have no feeling or empathy for anyone whatsoever. Only what they want is what matters,
And
and
it's
that's a
yeah, and
terrible
it's
way to be.
instant gratification. And so here's
Uh,
my thoughts on this because I'm watching these young stars that are trying to move up in the ranks and be famous and get their multi-million dollar deals with record companies and stuff. And I'm using this as an example, okay, like movie or music stars and stuff. I don't think that they fully understand what they're doing. I don't know. Sometimes I feel like, well, maybe they think it's a joke. And it's like, well, maybe they don't believe in the afterlife. They don't believe in God or heaven or the God. Uh-oh.
a lot of we lost you there for a minute.
I'm back.
I think okay. We're on a dark subject. I don't
Oh, yeah.
doubt we won't have some interference tonight.
Right.
Absolutely. Well, what I was going to say is these people, Jessica, do not realize that one day they're going to have to die and pay the price for what they've done.
Yeah.
If they don't break this curse, if they don't get out of this situation, they're going to have to pay for it one day. And we all got to, one day or sooner or later, we don't like to think about it, but we're all going to be unalived, okay, as they like to say. We're not going to be here anymore. Well, one day, and when that happens, and believe me, I have heard stories that will turn your hair gray almost. I mean, it's just, these are the real things that happen, folks. This is the real stuff. And I have heard of deathbed instances where people have died screaming that these things have come after them to drag them to hell. This is some very bad juju here, okay? This is bad stuff to get into. And they just don't realize while you're on top, you got all the fame, glory, or whatever the money you want, and you get whatever you want while you're on top. But one day you will be on the bottom, and all that's going to run out, and you'll face the consequences. It's like Robert Louis Stevenson said, one of my favorite quotes, Jessica. One day we will all sit down to a banquet of consequences.
Yeah. Yeah, I can appreciate that. I can appreciate that. So I it sounds terrible because I think some people go through life and that karma doesn't hit them as fast as we think it should when people wrong us. We're like, man, why are they still prospering so much? When they've hurt me so bad. But then you have to sit back and put it all in God's hands and say, they're going to get it one day. Okay. It's not up to us to decide when someone gets their karma, but Dennis, everybody gets their karma either this life or the next. Am I right or am I right?
Yeah, that's true. That's very true. And these people, I tell you, like I said, they just don't realize what the real price will be. I think a lot of times they enter into these things thinking, oh, it's a bunch of, made up stuff. They don't really believe it to a certain degree. There's a part of them that doesn't want to believe it or accept it. And, a lot of times we will deny the truth to ourselves and believe our own lies. And that's I think is happening with a lot of these people. Unfortunately, it's sad. It really is sad that they are doing this without realizing what the full consequences will be in the end. And I've had people ask me, do you think they've reached a point of no return? Sometimes they have. They've gone so far over into the darkness, they'll never find their way back, unfortunately. Although it happens, some people do come back. Some people do get back from it. But you got to want to. And that's the bad thing about it. Like I said about these people before, they're narcissistic in that respect. All they think about is their self. They can't see any, and everything they think they're doing, Jessica, they think they're doing the right thing. They think they're okay at what they're doing. But they have lied to themselves to believe that, unfortunately.
Yeah. So Dennis, you're saying most werewolves are narcissists at heart.
Yeah.
So, I can see that. We do have a question in the audience. Amy's in here. She says, hey, Amy, Dennis, can an evil energy force an agreement when you're a child? Can an evil energy force
the child can be affected by it because somebody, like the father or the grandfather or whatever, made the deal. Yes, that child can be affected, but a child, no, would not be able. I've never heard of an instance where a child's been forced into something. I had a case several years back where this young lady came to me, and she had a very bad demonic problem. She had some very bad stuff going on in her life, and then she told me that her father, who was a warlock, had promised her to the devil, and she believed without a doubt that she was cursed because her soul had been sold to the devil. And I tried to get her to understand. Your soul is your own. Nobody else can take that from you. You can only give it up willingly. That's the way it goes. Even the forces of darkness, Jessica, have a line drawn that they can't cross over. They can't take your soul from you. You have to give it up.
I have a question, Dennis, because this is something that I hear. I like to listen to tarot videos and stuff on YouTube sometimes, and sometimes they can get kind of dark. Okay, I don't know. Maybe that's just my future. I don't know. I hope not. But sometimes they do get dark, and I don't like listening to those. But they talk about how someone, they say, and I'm not saying these are my readings, y'all. Okay, but I'm just saying I've heard people say, so and so, somebody tried to sell your soul to the devil. Like they made a contract to sell your soul or to take your soul. Is that possible for somebody? Like, let's just say a boyfriend or a girlfriend or a husband or a wife or a parent or somebody decided that they wanted to climb a ladder of a secret society. Okay. And they put you up as an offering. Okay. Like your soul, you're unaware of it. How does that work? And is that even possible? Because I hear about it pretty often.
Well, a soul is an intangible thing. what you're doing when you basically sell your soul is you're just saying, "Oh, I'm coming over to your side. Okay, I'm going to be with you. I'm giving you I am surrendering 100% of myself. That's spiritually, mentally, physically, and emotionally. I'm selling it all over to you. I'm giving it to you. That's how you sell your soul. Okay, that's basically, it's not like a commodity. You can't put your soul in a box and wrap it up for Christmas. It's not a commodity in that way. But what you're doing is making a conscious effort to go over into that darkness and embrace that darkness for what it is. You lose yourself. And that's what that biblical saying goes, what will it profit a man to gain the whole world and lose your own soul? That's a terrible thing. That's a terrible price to pay. Because your soul is you. That is the essence of your being. And if you go over to the darkness, like Star Wars, if you sell out to the dark side of the force in that respect, you're doomed. You're dooming yourself because you are putting yourself in league with them, and their fate will be yours. And their fate will be a terrible fate down the line because of the darkness that they have and all that. It is I've talked about this before. Evil is a very self-destructive thing. And evil destroy. Listen to this, Jessica. Here's what you got to remember. Evil destroys itself, and with you too with it. That's just the way it goes. It's sort of like cancer. A cancer can go all over your body, or it can affect one part of your body, but you still got cancer. I mean, that's the way that's going, and that's the way evil works. Eventually, it will take you with it, but it is self-destructive. It is one of the most destructive forces in the universe, if you want to look at it that way.
That's why I always encourage my viewers to keep a high vibration, and so does Jane with Midwest Night Watchers. Every time she's in the chat, we're always saying, keep your vibrations high, everybody, so that and try to stay on the straight and narrow. Okay, if you can.
Yeah.
Don't go to the dark side. Don't ever go to the dark side, because once you lower your vibrational frequency, when you do give in to even addictions, right, Dennis? Like if you get on addictions, that's a very low vibration. And that's when things can start attaching to you. That's when people, if they're trying to curse your life, people in the public sector, in the public eye, have people who don't like them and try to throw curses at people like that. I'm not saying people are trying to curse me and you, Dennis, but they might. I don't know. And I can only hope those things bounce off, because I don't buy into it. And, I keep a high vibe.
Well, here's what I tell people, and I counsel people about curses. That you got to remember one important thing about curses. The power of the curse is your belief in it. Okay? The curse has a lot of power because you put belief in it. Okay? If you believe in it, then it makes it more powerful in that respect. So that's, if I were a witch doctor and I put a curse on you tonight, Jessica, I'd let you know that I put a curse on you. I'd let you know that, because psychologically you empower that curse by believing. Yeah.
Yeah, how would you tell me that, though? Would you do it? You would call me and say, I just cursed you, or would you send me a picture of a dead chicken or something? Because I'm not going to say that's ever happened to me before, but is that how somebody would do that?
Yeah. And the way to break the curse is to break the power of the belief in that curse. You take its power away from it, and that's what you have to proactively do. Here's the interesting thing about curses. Curses are spoken into reality. They are also destroyed by reality of unbelief in them. So they work both ways. And that's how you put down a curse. That's one of the major ways you put down a curse. But you also have to, because your mind needs to accept this, okay? The conscious mind needs to accept that you do an action to break this curse, whether you cut a string or a rope, whatever the situation is. You do this. I call it an act of faith, is what it is, basically. You do this action and say, okay, I break you. Your mind realizes that, and it helps you understand that you have broken that curse, and psychologically now you don't have believe in the power of that curse anymore, and it has no more power over you in that respect.
Oh
That's
my
the way
God.
you break it. Yeah.
Well, you were talking. You have a wonderful YouTube channel, Dennis. And on Friday night, you were talking about some curses and how you can tell if your home has been cursed. And a lot of times you can go because someone will actually go to your house and actually have to place something on your property. Correct? Can you
That's
tell me
true.
about that?
Yeah, that's true. There's certain, and there are voodoo curses like that. There are fetishes and grizz, as they call it, or juju. Whatever the situation is, whenever it's done with black magic or black witchcraft or whatever name you want to give it, you have to leave something as a symbol of what you're doing. That's like the voodoo doll. It's a symbol. Just like if I had a voodoo doll of you, I'm picking on you tonight, okay? If I had a voodoo doll of you, and I have to have a little bit of your hair on it, okay, or maybe some of your clothing. Why? Because that doll represents spiritually you. And what I do to that doll, stick pins in it, it does things to you because you have that mystical spiritual connection to it. And these spells and curses and hexes that people use, they have to use something as a symbol, just like I just said about how you break the curse. Okay, you also instigate a curse that way. You have an object and you say, "I'm putting my curse on this object, and I'm putting it in your house or on your property, and it will curse your house and your property and you." That's just the way that works. So I have advised people many times, if you think somebody has done that, search your property thoroughly and make sure there isn't something left there. And it will be a fetish, like maybe something with feathers tied with string. I don't know if I ever told you about the time that my grandmother had a curse put on her. She had a death curse put on her. I've had one put on me, by the way. She had a death curse put on her, and she told my grandfather to go look under the front doorstep. That's where they put it. They'll either put it around your door or around your doorstep. Okay, the front of your house, because that's where you mostly come in and out. That's the main traveling area. And my grandfather went and dug this thing up, Jessica, and this was in Georgia somewhere, somewhere back in Georgia. And yeah, and he found this bundle of cloth, and he told how many yards of cloth this thing was bundled up with. It was black cloth, and he unwrapped it, and in the middle of this thing was a napkin, and in it was cut 7 pieces of a snake.
A real
Now,
live snake?
I looked this up years. I heard about this when I was a kid. Okay, I found out later though what the actual symbolism of that was. The snake was the curse itself, the bad luck, whatever it is, the death they wanted to cause you. You kill that snake and sacrificed it. Okay, and you cut it in 7 pieces, and you wrapped it up in the tissue. And what that's the curse, and the cloth represents the binding of it. That you're binding this up, and wherever you leave it on someone's property, that's the curse. And this is a death curse, basically what it was. And my grandmother told my grandfather, "You go and burn that thing, burn it now," and which she did, and she immediately got better. She was dying. She immediately got better and was fine after that. But that's a death curse.
That's terrifying. And Cryptoville has a very good point. Okay, because this is something that I've had to learn over the past several years. He says, I try to be careful about who I listen to and talk to, accept things from, and who I let touch me. It helps keep the bad juju away. Now, that is very true.
Absolutely.
And I've had conversations with people about not eating food. And I love a good potluck dinner. I love a good potluck. I'm from the South, Dennis. You know how we do potlucks, especially church lunches and stuff. And I'm very hesitant now to eat food from strangers, especially. I'm not going to say what.
You
Just
gotta,
certain things I don't eat at people's
you
homes.
gotta, you gotta remember one very important thing, Jessica. Our mothers used to teach us, take things from strangers. You ever wonder about that? Don't take things. Well, it's a stranger you got to watch out for. That's for sure. But what about taking stuff from strangers? Once you take something, if I give you something tonight and hand it to you, you take it in your hand. It's yours. Okay. Not only is it yours. Listen to very closely. Not only is it yours physically, but it's yours spiritually as well. It's
Oh, yeah.
bound to you now. It's bound to you. So if somebody gives you something bad, what's it going to do to you? It's going to badly affect you. That's just
Yeah.
the way that goes. And that's the way people pass on curses and stuff by giving it. And once they give it to you, the authority says that's yours now. And the only way you can break that is to give it away. You have to give it to somebody else.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Okay, so that makes me question ever going to a thrift store ever again. But and like I said, from being from the South, okay, I've really, and I'm sure this is all over the place, but I'm just saying from my experience, it's hard not to accept things like gifts from people sometimes because you want to take it out of the goodness. It was the goodness of their heart giving you something out of the, and you accepting it out of the goodness of your heart and just being very appreciative of that. But not everything has a good intention behind it. I mean, so I guess what do we do, Dennis? Do we go with our gut? Should we just never accept anything from anybody? Or is there a way to cleanse it before we take it home? I mean, what do you suggest?
Well, I have brought some items in my house like that. As a matter of fact, actually, let me show you a little item I have here. This was a knife that was left sticking in my lawn. This had a death curse. This is a death curse knife, okay? In order for me, oh yeah, somebody put a death curse on me, but I'm still here. Anyway, I had to cleanse this thing before I even touch. It's not even a good idea to handle this stuff very much. But I cleansed this by, of course, anointing it with oil and saying a blessing over it and cleansing it with salt before I ever would bring it in. Now whatever bad intentions were on it are gone once it's cleansed, spiritually cleansed. But you have to do that in a certain way. But that's kind of where I kind of part ways with the very well-known Constantine, the very famous guy, Constantine in the movies. He's doing a lot of stuff the bad way, and I don't do it that way. I would rather do it the good way. There's a right way and a wrong way to do everything. You don't cast out evil or put down evil by doing evil. It don't work that way. That's contradictory to what it's doing. You have to put down evil with good works, with a good way to do it. And so you don't want to cross that line and start addressing evil with evil. It's not going to work. You got to do it with good. But there are certain ways you do these things to cleanse items, houses, yourself, your surroundings, your property, your animals, whatever the situation. I had a guy come to me one time who had a beautiful German Shepherd dog, and he said he raised this dog from a puppy. So all of a sudden one day the dog just got mean with him. He got violent with him sometimes. Said, I don't know why. Come to find out, an enemy of his had given him a gift of a dog collar that he put on this dog. And immediately this dog started doing this. When I heard that, I said, oh, light bulb moment, get rid of that collar. Take it off of that dog. And I told him how to address this collar and what to do with it. And he did that. And the dog is fine now. The dog is perfectly okay. But that's just how you can be affected by some of these things unknowingly sometimes. Don't take gifts from strangers, especially people don't like you.
Okay, Dennis, I have a question because this is something that happened to me personally. And I don't talk about my personal stuff a lot. I talk about certain things, but not when it comes to the things that have negatively affected me in my life, such as this, what I'm about to tell you. So a few years ago, I was going through a pretty nasty divorce, let's just say. And and I was living in a not safe conditions. Let's just put it that way as well. And not living in fear, but not knowing that I wasn't very safe where I was. Okay. And there was a point where I woke up one day and my dog started having seizures. Okay. My dog was having seizures. And my dog was having such bad seizures, and I felt like there had been something that was trying. I knew that there was like a lot of negative energy being sent my way and all this stuff. And I'm not saying it's because of the divorce. Okay. I'm saying it because it was just a really bad moment. Okay. And energetically in life. And my dog, it got so bad, my dog almost died. And I never seen an animal. She'd never been sick. She's a German Shepherd too, by the way. She'd never been sick. But throughout that day, anytime I finally got her to come out of her seizure, you know, I figured out what to do, and I gave her some medicine. I finally calmed her down. I mean, it happened all day, all day. And I got her to the vet when I finally could get her in the car, and had some help. We got her there, and you know, they gave her medication. She ended up being okay, but I mean, it was that night before she got okay. And I started thinking, because she never was sick ever again. I never gave her medication after that. It never happened again. But I was going through so much spiritual attack at that point in my life. So much energetic attack, so much spiritual attack. I think what had happened, I was on my spiritual journey. Okay. And I had learned to raise my vibrational frequency and stuff. And I was felt very well protected spiritually at that point. But I felt like my dog took a hit. Okay. So all this negative energy that was going on and trying to get at me didn't hit me. It went to my dog. Now, is that possible, or am I imagining things?
Well, that's the way this insidious, evil, hatred-driven evil works.
Yeah.
It will go after what you love.
Yep.
What is close to you. That's exactly the way it always goes. It attacks you in that way. You know, we got to remember something, Jessica. Emotion is a very powerful thing. And one of the most evil emotions of all is hatred. It fuels the darkness. And we see the rise. And I'll be talking about this on my seminar I'm going to be doing next week. The rise of hatred in this world is greater than I have ever seen it before. And let me say this, hatred has a dark force behind it. Okay? Whatever kind of hatred it is, whether it's racial hatred or sex hatred or whatever the situation is, whatever kind of hatred, it all comes down to the root of darkness that fuels this hatred. It is a virulent emotion like jealousy and envy and all these other bad negative emotions. It has a power of its own, and that's what fuels these curses that can come into our life, and the hexes and evil spells that people put on us. Sometimes we have to be very careful, and some of the worst things I've seen happen have come out of divorces, by the way, because that has a lot of emotional impact to it. Okay, it has a lot of heartfelt emotional impact, and it goes to the core of our being in that respect. I've never divorced, but I've talked to a lot of people who have had to go through that. It is a great emotional upheaval that it takes years to get over. Sometimes people never get over it. You know, that's just the way that goes. But the hatred that can be unleashed through that is astounding and very dangerous.
It's very well, and a lot of people, potentially there are people who would not have survived what I went through. Okay. And what happened, and thank God, I won't say thank God I had already been within, you know, months of like getting on my spiritual path and like really, really putting up my protection and learning the protection and doing my shadow work, as they call it. And being on a way higher vibe. And see, people weren't aware of it because I was in hermit mode. Okay. So nobody knew what I was up to. They thought I was just at home crying and depressed. And I guess that whoever was doing this felt like it was probably going to end me. And I think what it did was it stuck to my dog instead of me. And so I learned to put protection and boundaries around my dog and my entire home and my son and everybody after that. Okay. So,
Oh yeah.
very good advice and stuff tonight, Dennis. Thank you. Thank you for all this. I appreciate it. We still got a few minutes.
That's the very interesting thing about whenever I do cleansings, and I have done thousands of them. I always bless the animals that are concerned with that too, because these forces can go through animals, children,
Yeah.
And like I say, that's the number one target for these things, because they're not just the innocent things, and they are innocent, of course, but that's the things that usually is what you love, or what is very close or emotionally attached to you. That's what they go after every time. It's a target, you know.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yes, it's
But
what's
the
going to
good
hurt you the
thing
most.
is, the good thing is, Jessica, whenever you step over into the spiritual darkness, there are other spiritual forces of light that are there to help you. You always remember, and I think a lot of times we don't realize that. I wrote this one time about, it's a novel I was writing, and in the novel, the guy is talking to an angel, okay, and he says to the angel, "Why didn't you help me? Why wasn't you there when I really, why wasn't you there? Why didn't you show up?" And he said, "Don't you realize?" The angel said to him, "Don't you realize we were always there, and we helped you in 1,000 ways you'll never know." And that's how we work, you know. And I think there are forces of light that are out there on our side working for us against the darkness that not only the demonic and evil forces, and the government is in touch with all of this stuff too. We won't get into that tonight. But the whole thing is, there are forces out there that want to destroy us, but don't forget there are forces out there that want to help us. They're on our side in that respect. That makes me feel better to realize that no matter how bad the curse, let me say this, no matter how bad and dark the spells and hexes and curses are, the light is greater than the
That's
darkness.
right. And
Mm.
I've seen it firsthand in my life. Light is much greater than the darkness. And but the darkness is always going to try to extinguish our light at the same
Oh
time. So we
yeah,
have to be careful with that for sure. Yeah.
and that's why, and that's why we have to really watch our own emotions
Yeah.
very carefully, because if we fall over in that category of jealousy or hatred, or revenge, or whatever the situation is, then we go deeper into the darkness. We don't want to do that. We want to stay in the light and not in the darkness, because that darkness, once it gets a hold of you, and I've said this before, power, money, and all these other things, they're like chains of darkness that can wrap around your soul, absolutely wrap around your soul and doom you. But you are the one that lets them put those chains on you. They don't just come up and throw them chains on you, okay? That it don't work that way. I've had a lot of people ask me that over the years. Can I be walking down the street, Mr. Carroll, and bam, I get possessed? Oh, no, it don't work that way. You don't just, be walking along, mind your own business, and bam, you get this whammy put on you. No, you have to somehow or another give it authority in your life, some way or another, and you don't want to do that. Authority is we've got to understand this, Jessica. Authority is very, very paramount to our survival. Authority is a very, very important thing. We allow these things into our lives at our own peril if we're not careful. Okay, we give them authority when we shouldn't, and we need to be very careful with that.
We do. We do. And we've been talking about bloodline curses tonight in regard to the werewolves down in South America. Okay, so the werewolves down there, and I'm sure that pertains to werewolves here in the United States and North America. Werewolves everywhere in Europe, China,
Hmm.
everywhere in Asia. Okay, but so what can we do with the bloodline curses? And I don't want my son. I hope that my son is not a werewolf because of his dad's side of the family. I'm just saying. I'm just kidding. I
Uh,
know that's a terrible joke, but it's not. But it's serious. Apparently, because we got to now. If that's how the werewolves curse is passed down, it's through bloodlines
yeah.
sometimes. So
Well,
how do we protect ourselves?
a lot of times that's to say that's the number one thing you got to remember about curses. They can be broken.
Yeah.
Okay, they can be broken. There's no eternal thing about them. You can break them, and you have to willingly do it with the force of your own belief system. Okay, whatever it may be, you need to do it with that. Use that faith to counteract the stuff. And you do it by your belief. Like I said earlier, the power and the curse is your belief in it. When you take that away from it, you disempower that curse. Okay, you take its power away from it. So if you think you have a curse on you, if it's a bloodline curse or something that's been put on you, or a generational curse on it, break it. And you can break it with action. You can break it with action, and you can break it with the mindset that you have to do it also. But like I said, and I've told this to a lot of people, and this works. Okay, you can get yourself a red. I like a red string. Okay, red string symbolizes a lot. Get yourself a red string, and you get you a knife, and you cut that string, and you say, "I break the curse. I break the power, and I revoke the invitation. I break the contract, whatever it may be that is against me. The evil, negative stuff that's against me. I break it now." And then you take that string and you bury it, just like I said before, how you do the Ouija board. You are actually letting this thing die. You're killing it. You're symbolically letting it die or unaliving it, is like people like to say. You're doing that to it, okay? You're symbolizing this. This is an action that your mind realizes you're doing and your spirit realizes you're doing. You bury it, you salt it, sea salt on it, say a prayer over it, whatever you want to say on it, walk away from it and never go back there to it again. Okay, it's very important that you don't look back on your way out. You don't look back and you never go back there. I don't care if somebody calls your name or what. I've had people say, "Somebody called my name." I said, "You didn't look back, did you?" Don't look back. Never go back there again. That curse is dead. It's gone. It's stopped. It can no more have power over you than they are around you anymore. That's it. That's it. That's the end of it. And that's how you break it. You break it through the power of action, thought, and belief. That's what it takes.
And people don't realize how powerful we are as humans and our intentions are. And so 100%, it can all be broken. Just keep your vibe high, everybody. Okay, keep your vibe high. And yeah, and so it is, Maureen. Thank you. Yeah, Dennis, this has been fantastic. What an amazing show tonight. Thank you so much for being here. You know, you're one of my favorite co-hosts, right? So you're over on my channel quite a bit. And you have your own channel, Dennis. Can you tell the audience about your YouTube channel and the shows that you're doing?
Okay, well, Monday night at 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time, me and my good friend Carroll Fountain will be on the road less traveled. And I think this week we're going to talk about the very mysterious globes that are found around the world. Where do they come from? Why they were carved or whatever. We're going to be talking about that. And then Wednesday night at 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Hunting the Shadows, a special 2-hour seminar on the Nephilim, the rise of the fallen, the plans that they have for humanity. And we're going to be talking about that. It's going to be very interesting. And Friday night, I'm going to be talking about large phantom felines and witch cats on Paranormal Point of View, Friday night at 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And if anybody wants to know any more about curses, anything like that, they can definitely get in touch with me on my website, denniswcarroll.com, or Gmail me at denniswcarroll@gmail.com, okay? And that's where they can get in touch with me if they have any more questions.
Awesome. Thank you, Dennis, so much for being here. I hope you have a wonderful night, and please stay safe out there, and I hope I see you again real soon. I know I will. I will, Dennis. Thank you for being here.
Thank
you. All right, have a great night, Dennis. Okay, we'll see you next time. Thank you. All right, y'all. Oh my God, what a great show. Thank you guys so much for being here tonight. Wow. Yeah, we went deep on that one tonight. So please, you guys, go over to After Hours right now. Rob G is getting that show started over at After Hours here on Spaced Out Radio. You guys, please come back and see me this Wednesday. I will be over on my channel, The Cryptid Huntress, with a glitch in the Matrix. Also, I have a Thursday night show and a Saturday night show. over there. All right, y'all. We all have a wonderful, wonderful week. I will be back next week here at Space Out Radio. And thank y'all for sticking with us all night. And I also wanted to thank, let's see, Reverend Cosmic Joe Chronicles. Thank you for that super sticker tonight. You rock. All right, y'all. Have a wonderful night. And I will see you guys back on Wednesday next week here. Bye, y'all.